Okay, hands up who thinks Final Fantasy XIII is the best in the series. Amongst the best. A solid entry. Passable. Quite possibly the worst numbered entry in the series. No! Yeah, so why is it that Final Fantasy XIII is not one but two direct sequels? I mean, Final Fantasy fans have been begging for remakes of the classic entries like 6 and 7 for years. That are a brand new numbered entry. But Square Enix have just been spending their time making a sequel to a game barely anyone played, which in turn was a sequel to a game very few liked. What were they thinking? So as pointless as Lightning Return's existence seems to be, how is it? Well, I'm actually kind of conflicted on this one, but because it's a Final Fantasy game, let's talk about what I believe should be the most important aspect of one, the story. Now, Lightning Returns I don't think requires knowledge of the previous two games, but it certainly will help, and I would recommend playing through at least 13 before playing this. So 500 years after the events of 13-2, our main character Lightning is working from a crystal sleep, and is tasked by the god Bunavelza to act as the world's saviour. You see, the world is ending, and Bunavelza wants to build a new world for Nova Chrysalia's residents. Think Noah's Ark, but with people. Anyway, Lightning has 13 days to set out into the world and lift as many burdens of people's hearts as possible. Basically by doing shit for them. If she guides enough souls to the new world Bunavelza is creating, Bunavelza will reunite Lightning with her sister Sarah. Now, the story in this game I don't think is as convoluted as the previous two, but it's still nowhere near Final Fantasy's best. I think the biggest problem concerns our main character, Lightning. Now, I actually do like Lightning. I like her design, her voice is pretty cool, plus she's quite the badass.
I'm not gonna tell you a thing either way, so you might as well move on.
Guess I should have known better than to ask some lowly grunt. You're no help to me. Where's the boss?
If you think you're gonna get to meet our boss, you'd better learn to ask nicely.
Did I hurt your feelings?
But the problem is, as a character we're supposed to relate to and care for, she's just not that interesting. She shows practically no emotion and just seems cut off from the world. It makes it hard to connect with her. In fact, the lack of emotion she has is actually explained via a plot point. Apparently Bunavelza took away her emotion.
Ever since I woke up as the savior, I haven't felt much of anything.
I think it's because you've been made something more than human, something almost divine.
But that's not an excuse. It doesn't change the fact that the character we spend 30 plus hours with is so dull. And it's a shame because there is a good character here. And she does get one or two good lines in from time to time because she works well as a deadpan character.
I know your face. You're the one I've seen on the posters.
Oh no, you've seen through my elaborate disguise. Yes, I'm the savior, here to steal the soul from your precious patron. What are you waiting for? Arrest me and you'll probably get a raise.
Shut up!
If you ask me, I think Snow would have made a much better protagonist, because he blended drama, human emotion, and even a little comedy much better. Because Lightning is riding solo this time around, there needed to be more to her. I think she needed a companion, someone her deadpan persona could bounce off well with. Again, Snow would have been perfect for this part. Lightning just doesn't have all the necessary ingredients for a leading role. She just doesn't have the staying power. That said, we do have Hope, who is in constant communication with Lightning via intercom. Problem is, he's not too interesting either, and he has this habit of just never shutting up. More often than not, you're about to face a monster, and Hope will be cut mid-sentence because you can't be arsed waiting for him to finish talking.
It's been a long time, and Snow has changed. We can't rule out the...
Now, we do get to meet up with the rest of the Final Fantasy XIII cast, but many of their appearances are limited to extended cameos. For the most part, it's just Lightning and Hope, and if only they had more chemistry together, I'd have cared about them more. To give an example of what I would have wanted, take this short little exchange Lightning and Hope have here, where Lightning has to say something embarrassing to this Chocobo girl to get some fireworks.
What are the magic words?
I don't have a choice, do I? Meow, meow, choco chow.
Ooh, that was adorable. Here, this is for you.
You managed to get the fireworks light. It was quite the achievement.
What? Is something amusing you?
If the game had back and forth banter like that more often, they would have been more relatable as characters and, well, all around more likeable. But it's not to say the story is all bad. There's some interesting religious themes here, and there's a constant mystery surrounding a new character called Lumina which kept me interested. And again, it's the easiest of the 3 games to understand what's going on, even if it does get confusing towards the end. Speaking of the end though, something happens which many Final Fantasy fans will consider a step too far. Now I have a brother and he wasn't interested in playing this game, so he asked me what occurred at the end. And when I told him what happened and where the characters ended up, he just laughed. The ending is just so over the top. I mean, there's no subtlety to be found with it. We're talking about a story with gods in it. It's so overly excessive. It just makes me yearn for a Final Fantasy game with a more down-to-earth story with more relatable characters. A lot of people have been saying the ending is Mass Effect 3 bad, and I don't think it's that bad, because Mass Effect 3 was all about choice and none of the endings in that game were satisfying. Lightning Returns ending is just dumb. Now in terms of presentation, this is where 13 and 13.2 were a bit better. For starters, Lightning Returns' frame rate can get pretty choppy at times, especially when there's a lot happening on screen. If this game kept a steady 60 frames, it would have improved this game's visual flair drastically. Then we have quite a few muddy textures, some extremely empty areas to explore like the Dead Dunes. And look right here, conversations with NPCs can be especially bad as other characters just keep bashing into them as we're talking.
But worse, I wouldn't have believed you could be capable of such a thing. I always underestimated you, my son. For that, you have my sincere apologies.
It's all right. And for what it's worth, I'm sorry for abandoning you and the restaurant.
That said, the game's CG cutscenes are gorgeous, but unfortunately they only appear at the beginning and the end of the game.
Damn you, Lightning! What's it gonna be?
The music is also mixed, and I mean that in terms of how good it is and how many genres it covers. You've got orchestral pieces like you'd expect in Final Fantasy, which are brilliant by the way, but there's times where I think they got the composer from Devil May Cry to work on this game. I mean, I'm not saying it's bad, it just feels out of place. But then there's more pop sounding tracks, one of which I really liked was a track that played in the village in the Wildlands. Now many critics have said that Lightning Returns' saving grace is its battle system. Gone is the keep pressing X to win and paradigm shift when you need to system from the previous 2 games. Now the battle system is much more active. Using 3 different outfit sets for Lightning, you switch between the 3 and lay waste to enemies using 4 different commands, each linked to the 4 main buttons on your controller. And by using the shoulder buttons, you can switch between different schematas to better suit your situation. You also have to block incoming attacks, and it's here you have to be on your toes. By reading your enemy's moves, you can block just before you get hit, and all damage will be nullified. Also, different enemies have different weaknesses, so by equipping the correct elemental attack, you can do more damage. And taking all that into account makes Lightning Returns' combat feel incredibly superior to 13 and 13.2's. However, it's not perfect. The main problem with the combat concerns difficulty. Now some enemies are easy to beat of course, but the bigger enemies like these Earth Eaters are just insanely difficult to kill. Many monsters in this game have just far too much health, and your attacks barely seem to scratch them at times. That's not to mention the absolutely insane amount of damage some monster attacks can do. Often about half of your health can go in one attack, and that's one attack you might be actively blocking. I mean, look at this damage! This is the kind of HP loss I would expect a secret post-game boss to inflict on you, not a regular enemy in the field. And this isn't the good kind of difficulty here, because in most RPGs, if you find the boss or an enemy that you find too difficult to beat, you simply go back to a previous area and train more, level up and get stronger, gain some experience points. That's what I love so much about RPGs, that sense of accomplishment, that quick little yeah feeling you get when you level up. It never gets old. In Lightning Returns, however, there's no experience points to be found. In fact, the only way to get stronger is to complete side quests and missions, as these will net you increases in health, magic and strength. And despite me doing every single side quest I could, I didn't feel any stronger at the end of the game than I did at the beginning. Enemies in the first city were still kicking my ass after 40 hours in. To put that into perspective, that's like playing Pokemon Red, defeating the Elite Four, and then going back to Route 1 only to have your ass handed to you by a Pidgey. Well, okay, maybe it's not that bad, but it's annoying. You know the enemies are overpowered when your occasional companions do damage that hit for 1 health point each, whilst yours do thousands. Speaking of companions though, you only ever get 2. One in the Dead Dunes where Fang joins you, but she might as well not, seeing how little damage she does, and the other is in the Wildlands where you get your own Chocobo that can join you in battle. You can even name him too. I call mine Steve. Say hi, Steve.
Talk to the bud.
But all points brought up so far aside, I've yet to talk about the game's biggest fuck up by far, and that concerns this damn clock. You see, the game is timed. You start off with 6 days, each lasting about an hour in real time, and by doing missions and gathering what is known as a radia, which by the way you're given no way of measuring, you can extend the game's time to a maximum of 13 days. And this means you are constantly being rushed. As the days go by, you'll have no idea if you have the time to do everything you want to. So to make up, you constantly rush everywhere in fear you may run out of time. And if you're a completionist and you want to do all the side quests, you're going to need all the time you can get. And there's the problem. I don't want to rush. Imagine if other RPGs had a timer just ticking away in the top right hand side of the screen. It'd be impossible to relax, and it seriously detracts from any fun you might be having. Oh, what's that? Oh, you want to take in the sights of Nova Crystallia and just relax for a few minutes? Fuck you, you don't have time. Want to battle some monsters in the wild in hopes of them dropping a super rare item? Fuck you, you don't have time. Want to take some time off and partake in a fun minigame which practically every Final Fantasy game has? Fuck you, there aren't any. Well, that sucks. You see, outside of the battle system, there's not much fun to be had. Take the side quests, which are split into 2 kinds. First of which are your standard side quests that are activated by talking to people and doing what they want. And second is the Canvas of Prayers, where you undertake quests from a notice board. And what does 90% of these tasks entail? Fetch quests. Yep, collect X amount of items and come back for your reward.
Always like to keep my audience riveted.
Hey, Square Enix. What about some cool tombs to raid with puzzles inside, or some super rare bounties to take down, or some fun little mini games like a chocobo race or something? You know, something to break the gameplay up for the sake of variety. And you want to know when it gets really bad? When you manage to collect enough of said item, you collect your reward, and then another quest pops up saying you gotta collect even more of that same item. And some of these quests are just ridiculously dull. One has you examining 13 clocks around the city to see if they're working. Yep, Lightning, the saviour chosen by God himself, is on clock repair duty. Then you got one where you have to buy an item at a shop at a specific time and give it to this guy so he can impress this girl. Yeah, that'll work. Impress someone with a gift someone else bought for you. Why is the saviour of the world involved with this bullshit again? And then you have one where you collect 60 of one item and 80 of another. And these items can't be bought, so in order to complete this side quest, you have to kill 140 monsters. 140? How is that fun? And that's not to mention that many quests can only be completed at certain times of the day. So that means having to wait around like a prick for a store to open or a person to appear, all while the clock ticks away, which means precious time is lost. Now the time thing is alleviated slightly by the chronostasis ability, which will freeze time for about 75 real-time seconds. Now using this ability requires you to use EP points, which unfortunately are hard to come by. You can get more by defeating monsters, but it's only the really tough ones that net you any kind of decent amount of EP. You see, this is the rhythm you'll get into. Use chronostasis, defeat a few monsters to regain lost EP, use chronostasis again, kill more monsters, etc, etc. I just wish the game would let me explore at my own pace. That constant ticking clock is such a nuisance. A large part of Final Fantasy should be you just getting lost in breathtaking magical new worlds, taking in the sights and admiring what the game designers have created for you. But the constant time limit means that every time you try to do that, a nagging piece of your brain will be telling you, "You're wasting time, stop savouring the moment and get a move on." And it's a shame because Lightning Returns is really open-ended, which will appeal to those of you who didn't like the linearity of 13. There's 4 big areas to explore, the cities of Luxerion and Yuznan, the Wildlands and the Dead Dunes, and there's no right order to do everything. If you want to help Snow in Yuznan first, go ahead. If you prefer uncovering the mystery of the Shadow Hunter in Luxerion last, you can do that. The only problem is that travelling between areas can take time. Oh, and you will be doing a lot of running around in this game. Only the Dead Dunes has fast travel, so be prepared to be sprinting around, waiting for that stamina gauge to refill, and sprint some more. By the way, that stamina gauge is pointless. Just let Lightning run for as long as she wants. Having to wait for the stamina to refill was just pointless and annoying. I mean, am I the only one who finds it ironic that a character called Lightning gets tired after only sprinting for about 12 seconds? But one thing I did enjoy quite a bit was customizing Lightning. You can buy lots of different outfits, accessorize them with adornments, and change the outfit's colours to whatever you want. And there's a ton of outfits to choose from. Dresses, cool Japanese inspired fashion. Some admittedly are a bit too slutty, but it's fun to play dress up. There was even an outfit that took the form of a suit, so guess what I did? I mean, this customization really had no purpose, bar the different stats and abilities the schematas give you, but it was a fun little side distraction, something I wish the game had more of. Now the outfits can be bought at shops, and I had more than enough money to buy every outfit and adornment I could see. Unfortunately, the same couldn't be said about weapons, which are insanely overpriced. Plus these weapons have ranks of either 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5, but I never found a one with a rank of 5. Perhaps that's something limited to hard mode, but I am not playing that. I only managed to get through normal mode by the skin of my own teeth. Want my advice? If you plan to play this game and aren't too bothered about 100% completion, play it on easy. So in conclusion, despite the numerous things wrong here, I still enjoy my time with Lightning Returns. Would I recommend this game though? No. Unless you did like 13 and 13 too, then the story might do something for you. You see, this is a story-heavy game, so I can't justify a purchase of Lightning Returns for the gameplay alone. And if 13's story didn't appeal to you, neither will this game. You know, this game shouldn't have had anything to do with the 13 saga. It should have been a completely new story with new characters, so it could be more accessible to those who didn't like 13. So now comes the score, and during my first few hours with this game, I honestly thought I was going to give it a 9. But once everything opens up, I began to notice the game's biggest problems. The huge difficulty spikes, the constant time limit, the boring quest objectives. That all collectively brought my score down to a 6. But it's a very high 6. Lightning Returns is a solid entry in the franchise, but it's not a game I would recommend to anyone who isn't already a fan of the 13 saga. Yes, many will dig the new combat system, but it's buried under so much mediocrity and annoying game mechanics. It makes it hard to recommend for that alone. If you see it on the cheap, I'd say give it a try, but given how many other great JRPGs are out there right now, like the brilliant Ni no Kuni, it makes Lightning Returns a tough sell. It's not a horrible game, it's quite good. It's just really, 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 really flawed.